Osama bin Laden. Let's move into that.
Yeah, I mean, since I was on the last time, the Western press finally broke he's alive. The interesting part is the U.S. still won't print it. The U.S. press won't. But what happened is, interestingly, British Intel leaked it to their press.
Really?
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, they did it because they were upset that, so apparently the CIA has been trying to curb the U.S. intelligence community and even trying to curb the Brits, saying Hamza's not alive, don't talk about Hamza, and basically the Brits are like, screw you, and they put it out in the press. The funny part is the U.S. press still didn't pick it up, so the U.S. press still went to the CIA, and CIA is like, don't print it. So it went, all over the world. It was all over in India, all over in Africa, and it didn't print here.
Hold on. Why does the CIA not want that out?
Because they don't believe Hamza bin Laden's alive.
Excuse me?
I know.
How so?
He's like running Al-Qaeda. He's hosting meetings like every week.
Why do they really not believe that? Or
I think
is this just to cover their tracks?
I think they really don't believe it, but then they've put no effort in the last couple of years to be like, well, we should run it down and maybe reverse our assessment. And remember, the same thing happened after Benghazi, right? We knew Al-Qaeda was there in real time. And then they all went down some weird fake protest thing, but then CIA never changed their assessments when they knew Al-Qaeda was on the compound, right? So sometimes it's almost impossible to get the CIA to reverse an assessment.
So for those that don't know, Hamza bin Laden he's basically the catalyst here. He is marrying into all these terrorist networks. We discussed this on your previous interview, but just to summarize it, he is kind of uniting them. The common goal is to come to the West, terrorize the West. How is this guy different than his father, Osama?
Yeah, Hamza's a problem. So it's really interesting. So Osama bin Laden, first off, Hamza really believes in being kind of undercover and covert. Like, he doesn't want to really go out there and be on TV or even do like the audio recordings. Like, he wants to stay under the radar, hidden. He wants you to not even like know he's running things. So he wants a hidden hand in everything. So I told you they're involved in October 7th. Al-Qaeda is never going to claim responsibility for it. Al-Qaeda is not going to claim responsibility for these embassy attacks. And they have a plan for that, I'll tell you. They're not going to claim responsibility for the Europe attacks. And they're definitely not going to claim responsibility for the U.S. homeland attack. Very different, right, than his father. The other thing is his father...
Hold on. Why are they not claiming responsibility?
Because they want to keep their safe havens intact, and they don't actually care if you know it was Al-Qaeda. They just want to take it to us, right?
Oh, shit.
It does not matter if it's ISIS, if it's HTS, if it's Hamas. They're all one, right? They're all an Islamic army. And nobody's taking this Islamic army concept seriously, but Hamza views all the terrorist groups in the world now under his Islamic army, and that's the way he views them. And he's almost like Iranian Quds Force, where he's like, okay, this is my proxy here, this is my proxy here, this is my proxy here. Like, he's planning an attack in Lebanon against some sort of U.S. interest, right? It's an Al-Qaeda Hezbollah plot. But when it occurs, only Hezbollah is going to take responsibility. You won't even know Al-Qaeda is involved in it. Just like Giuliani's Blitzkrieg. Al-Qaeda has supported that, right? They gave him 10,000 fighters, right? Taliban gave him camps in Afghanistan. Are you hearing anything about the Taliban and Al-Qaeda right now when they're talking about Syria?
No.
Zero. Did you hear their names come up at all for October 7th?
No.
Yeah. Hamza's killing it. So Hamza now wants to do completely covert action and let everything fall under this Islamic army. And the really interesting thing is his father was incredibly patient, right? Remember, everybody knows it took him 5 years to prove 9/11. And Osama bin Laden was like, hey, we can create the caliphate. I'm okay if it takes 1,000 years. Hamza wants to do everything in his lifetime. He wants the Islamic caliphate to be created in this lifetime. He wants to bring all of his father's goals, to fruition, and one of them was take it to America, right, on U.S. soil, make them feel the war zones at home. And Hamza takes that very serious, and that's why he has gone full force on this plot. The interesting part is Hamza will approve a plot in one meeting, right? Bring it in, brief this plan you have for the embassy. Yep, I'm good. So he moves a lot faster. And actually, of all things, the IRGC and Iran have complained. And they're even, when they work with al-Qaeda, they're like, we want Saif al-Adil. He's more calm, cool, collected. Like, we trust him more. We don't think he's going to cause a big ruckus. But they're like, Hamza's a loose cannon. He's running at full speed. We don't know how to control him. So it's almost an interesting thing. So it's funny, right? Other governments are seeing this, and our government won't even talk about him being alive, and he's running fast against us.
Can you go what are his goals? So hold on, I got a lot of questions. So if we have all these networks, we have all these terrorism networks. Is Hamza literally the number one guy?
So Hamza is the number one guy of what is now called the Islamic Army, okay? So the Islamic Army is Sunni Shia. It is his father's vision. Hamza's now put it to reality in the last 2 years. And it basically pulls in every group. It's Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, whoever will agree to it. Obviously, there's a lot of negotiations going on to get people into this. This isn't easy, right? Like, they're constantly giving up things to get people to join in. So he's been very successful. They've now trained about 120,000 people under this Islamic Army umbrella. So these new recruits are coming in. They're not basically training in an ISIS camp or an Al-Qaeda camp. They are, but they're coming out of it as Islamic Army. So when they're doing deployments to Syria, to Somalia, to Mali, these fighters are viewing themselves as Islamic Army. And the point of that is, if they get detained, they're not going to say Al-Qaeda, right? So Hamza set this up. And then he took one of his father's old bodyguards, Hamza al-Ghamdi, his name is, and put him in charge. So Hamza al-Ghamdi is actually basically the commander of the Islamic Army. Maybe like a month ago, FBI upped his reward. So this is funny. So Hamza al-Ghamdi is worth $5 million. Hamza bin Laden, who's in charge of Hamza al-Ghamdi and appointed him, he's on the wanted list for $1 million. So we don't even have our priorities right of who's in charge, who the enemy is, what they're involved in. So so there's the whole Islamic Army piece, okay? Now, under the Islamic Army falls the original goals of Osama bin Laden, right?